James, since you are the co-host of the Guardians of the CLE podcast, I figured there was no better place to start than the one, the only Cleveland Guardians, because already this season, the team has faced a little bit of adversity. Obviously, Tristan McKenzie, Aaron Savali, both going down. You're already losing, 40% of your starting rotation. And the rotation, I mean, we saw it today from Bieber at the time of this recording against the Nationals. Bieber was okay, I would say. He didn't have his best stuff, but a bad Shane Bieber outing still gave you a chance to win. Obviously, the bullpen just could not put it together. But James, I've always said my hard rule in baseball is, you win games, you lose games. I don't really get too worked up in April or sort of early May stuff. I'll be honest, about mid-May, if you're really behind, or really, to be honest with you, about June 1st, when I start looking at the standings and really seeing, okay, where are we? Who are we? Because especially with this Guardians team, it's why I can't get upset about, losses, or I can't get too hyped about wins, because I already know there's going to be so many changes with this team that we see currently in April till the end of the season.
Yeah, and at the end of March, you start getting, when the guys are, in spring training, you're starting to see everybody that they're intermingling the minor league players, seeing where everybody's at, just feeling positions out, whether it be in the field or in the batting order. It's fun, right? So you lead that into April. You lead that into the regular season, and you're just happy it's back, because April is such a solid month for sports. Between, the Major League Baseball season has just gotten started. You got the Final Four for the men's and women's. You got the Masters coming up. Everybody's starting to talk NFL draft. April's such a fun time, but, with the Guardians, with the weather we have here in Northeast Ohio, you always hope we just kind of literally weather the storm, make it through April, have a winning record, stay as healthy as possible. Because that roster that you start out with is not what you're going to finish with.
Yeah.
Yes, they expand the roster at the end of the season. But there's just guys that there's possible trades. There's guys that get sent back down to the minors. But then there's guys, and as you know, Brandon, there's so many guys down in our minor league system that are just itching to get up here and play with this big league squad. So it keeps everybody on their toes early. But for fans, for us, it's where are we at in the division, because we know that's our ticket to the playoffs. If you don't finish first in the division, that wild card is pretty difficult with the strength of the AL East to be able to get another wild card spot. The West is pretty solid between the Mariners, the Astros, and then the surprising Texas Rangers. So just get through April, stay healthy. Have Josh Bell, you've seen how he struggled.
Yep.
He just had a solid weekend back in Washington, where he's telling people, he's just feels comfortable there. He's played several years there, won a championship there. But for him, it's just relaxing mentally too, off the field. Seeing people that work at the stadium greeting him when he walks in, or during the weekend series, maybe hitting his favorite restaurant, seeing a few people there at his table he used to get when he was there. So I think it's helped settle him down. Had a solid weekend. We still took 2 out of 3 against the Nationals. So I'll take it. But let's have that nice, solid winning record. Last year we had the same record at home as we did on the road, and I hope we can improve on that this year.
So just take you back last year when many pundits and experts were saying, the Guardians were going to be a bad team. They were not going to be able to hit. They were saying the Guardians were going to finish 4th or 5th in the division. I had predicted them to win about 85 to 90 games, like they always have typically done. They've only had one season under Terry Francona, where they have not been at 500, and that was the year where Tito was basically out the whole season.
Yeah.
Due to his illnesses, and they also, by the way, only finished one game under 500. That was also the season where their whole starting rotation was out prior to the All-Star break. So, it's really amazing what this team does, sort of year in, year out. I'm expecting the same thing this year. I do think that while Minnesota is good, and I know obviously we haven't seen them head to head yet, but I think that the Guardians are the better team and they should win the AL Central. The issue for me always becomes the postseason. And it's sort of hard for me, even though like I'm dying, and I know you are too. We all want to see a World Series in Cleveland, but in order to do it right, it's like you have to go up against the Yankees, who no matter when we play them are always tough against the Guardians, no matter what. Even though I did think at times last year we were the better team, and if it wasn't for that rain out prior to Game 5, we could have won that Game 5 in New York. I truly believe that with my heart. But then you also have Houston, and I know that they've dealt with injuries, and I know they've lost people, and I know that they've struggled here early in the season. But I am not discounting Houston. I still think them, Seattle, us, the Yankees, the Rays, obviously, with their hot start. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is expectations for the Guardians, to me, is hard to pinpoint because is the division enough anymore? Some people would say yes, and some people would say no, because some people see not making the World Series a failure. I don't see it that way with this team.
To me, the division is just the ticket, right? So the division last year meant the third seed. Are we going to be strong enough to move into a second or first spot to have the best record in the American League? We're going to have to put something together a lot sooner, I think, this year than we think, like right after All-Star break or right before All-Star break. Does Bo Naylor come up earlier than anticipated?
Good point.
After carrying these three catchers right now? How many starting pitchers come up out of the minor leagues? Are we going to replace Savali? Does Savali become the 5? Does Plesac, is he still on the team at the end of May? Because we have so many good starting pitchers between Bybee, Williams. Love to see Espino get involved with our major league roster this year. I predicted on our Guardians of the CLE podcast that we are going to have one of our minor league starting pitchers come up and make that difference in order for us to win a World Series for the first time in 75 years this year. I really think it has to be a Jarrett Wright type scenario that was 1997, where the young guy comes up and he's a stud and he's pitching well. And Jarrett didn't have a long career, but we do not forget him here in Cleveland and the impact he had on our team. And it wasn't his fault. Chad OJ was going to be the World Series MVP in 97 had we closed that game out. Once again, not your top starter, just another guy that's in the starting rotation that pitched his ass off in the series, the World Series that means everything. And, we fell a little bit short, but I really think this bullpen, we got to be careful early on in the year. We spent a lot of innings on our bullpen. There was many guys that were out today that were just not going to be used, having us try to, change up our philosophy of who's pitching in what inning to close the game out today. It didn't work out for us, but like you said, you win some, you lose some. And I wish I could remember the Earl Weaver, the manager of the Baltimore Warriors, quote. He used to say something like that. He had a quote out there that was,
I think it's you win 50 games, you lose 50,
you lose 50, and the rest of them is you got to go get.
For sure. So James, I got to tell you, when it comes to baseball, I am a traditionalist. I'm very old school, and so when I heard about these rule changes that were being proposed for months and months, and then when they finally got instituted, I was against them at first, and I did not think that they were going to work. I did not like banning the shift. I thought it was taking away strategy. Did not understand how the bigger bases were going to help steal bases. And I just did not like the idea of putting a clock in on pitchers and hitters. But after about a game or two of seeing the new rule changes, I immediately changed my mind. I said, you know what? I
right.
think I think it's gonna work. I do think the 15-second with nobody on base pitch clock, it feels to me a little fast. I think that they should personally put it at 20 seconds for all situations, whether you're on base or not. Banning the shift, I think it is creating more action. And then the bigger bases is helping, steal more bases. I think I read somewhere there's going to be 1,200 or more something stolen bases this season. So I don't give Ron Manfred a lot of credit, but I got to give him credit there. My question to you is, I haven't noticed a correlation yet between, is there a reason why maybe more ace starting pitchers are struggling, runs going up, etc.? Because it does feel like to me that some of these pitchers that aren't necessarily liking the pitch clock to start or not getting used to it, like Bieber to me is a perfect example of maybe they are rushing a little bit and leaving some fastballs over the plate because they're not used to speeding up because of this pitch clock early on in the season.
I guess a good way to look at that would be as if you could go back and look at last season and find out, some stat geek that could sit in a room and watch video and find out, hey, how many if you looked at last year's, if that clock was in place last year,
right,
how many violations would he actually have? Because Max Scherzer of the Mets came out and said during the offseason that he thinks it's going to be a big gain for him because he likes to pitch fast. So it's really on all, look at James Karinchak coming out of the bullpen. We knew that he was going to have some struggles just because of all his little mannerisms that he does. He's always doing stuff, flipping the ball up and all that, and his hat and the hair's been cut. But anyways, as far as going back to, do I like the rule changes? I think absolutely yes, because you need to turn eyes on to this game. If you look back and when the shot clock was put in for basketball, and it used to be like 35, I think, in college, and 24 in the NBA, and then but anyways, how many times do you ever watch a game and just think of the shot clock?
Me personally, all the time.
I don't pay like any. I mean, if it's like, you hear it, like, oh yeah, it's shot off. I'm not paying that much attention to it. I'm watching where the players are and who's moving off the ball. All the other kind of details. To me, the clock, I'm not playing point guard at that time. I'm just trying to watch everything else.
I get you.
I'm happy that the pitch clock, that it was tested in the minor leagues to see how well it was going to do. The same way this year they're testing the robo umpire AAA level. So I would really like to see how that's going to go, because my favorite I don't know about you if you watch any pro tennis, but I think the replay system in tennis, where if the ball's close to the line and the player just puts the racket up or their hand up, and all of a sudden it just goes to that replay where it starts zeroing in and doing the close up of where the ball hits on the line, and it's either in or out.
Yeah.
And it's that quick, and it keeps the pace of the game moving, but you also have that accuracy backing up these, humans that are working as your, your baseline umpires, and, trying to call the best game you possibly can, So I like the rule changes. I like the more offense. That means more eyeballs. That means more runs. It's what the NBA did with the 3-point line, shoot more threes. It's all going in. And I'm not a diehard analytics guy. I like some of it, but some stuff it's like, I'll pass. I don't need to know how fast the ball left
I've said that for years. I get hitters use it for the launch angle, launch speed, whatever these analytics. For me, it's like put the ball in play. And that's what I love so much about this Guardians team, is they really are a throwback. We have some home run hitters on this team. Obviously, Naylor, Jose, Josh Bell, Jimenez can hit them. Or really, you have guys like Quan, Ahmed Rosario, Miles Straw, on and on and on. These guys just put the ball in play and they get their base hits and they manufacture runs. And it's just such a refreshing way to play the game of baseball, because I think one of the reasons why fans went away from the game so much, outside of the fact they don't market their stars at all, is, it was either a strikeout or a home run and there was nobody on base.
Well, if you look at the economics of the game and how much money we can spend as a Cleveland organization would be, yes, we call ourselves the big league city, but obviously we don't have the money that the New York Yankees or the LA Dodgers have. So you have to do with what you got. And with younger players, and we're going through it now, and we watched Jose Ramirez's career where he came up young, where the power eventually came. So with us being the youngest team in the league, do we have guys that can hit for power? Yeah, but maybe not yet consistently, putting up some high numbers. I expect to see some, career highs out of guys here this year, but it's going to take time because we still have more young guys to add yet. So we have to play the way we're playing. We have to play small ball. I loved watching the 85 Cardinals with Vince Coleman and Willie McGee and Ozzie Smith, three guys that were contact hitters that were fast as hell, would steal any base.
Yep.
And just get over and allow a base hit from out of the 3-hole to score somebody from third base and run that first to third mentality of hitting the ball in the outfield. It's what we're all about. So it's so enjoyable to watch this. It's the complete opposite of what we watched in the 90s, where Dick Jacobs is bringing them, spending more money and bringing some of these veterans to add to our young guys. We had our youth within Lofton, Vizquel, Baerga, Bell, but then we were adding the Tony Peñas, the Dave Winfields, the Eddie Murrays, adding some veterans to that lineup too. But I mean, hell, you remember, Manny and Tommy, and then Sandy Alomar to be like your ninth hitter, at the bottom of the order. It was insane.
Well, as you know, great pitching will defeat great hitting anytime.
Yeah, and we learned that. And I'll tell you what, Kenny Lofton still says it, and I'll say it to those umpires with that strike zone in 95. It was so wide for Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz. Yeah. And I in my heart, though, I love the Braves, too. I was a Dale Murphy fan growing up.
Okay.
When cable TV came out and you had WTBS and you could watch Braves baseball, too, whenever, the Indians weren't on or whatever. Yeah. I loved watching the Braves. My dad took me and our family to a game at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
On a vacation. My grandparents actually moved to Georgia back then, and we went to visit them and stopped at the Braves game. Got to see Tony Gwynn and the Padres versus Dale Murphy and the Braves. So I have a little soft spot in my heart for that team, even though in 95 I couldn't celebrate because they just beat my favorite team. But still, I love the Braves too.
You like that clip from the Braves World Podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Braves World Podcast right here on YouTube.